In this video, we'll further edit select.xml to rename columns and also change column formats. We'll show how to compute values in a column and talk about how extensions interact with simpler.gov. By default, column names in select.xml are the same as in your source dataset and show up in simpler.gov the same. But let's say you want the column name to display differently in simpler.gov. Maybe instead of land use category, I just want land use. In select.xml, I can specify source name for that column and use the column name from my source dataset. With that specified, I can now change column name to display as anything I want. I can also define type at the column level. To illustrate this, let's look at the month column. Notice when I sort by month, it sorts correctly because the default type for that column is number. But if I need to, I can edit type at the column level. I'll change it to type equals string. Now you can see it sorts the column data as a string, not as a number. See how 10 and 11 come after 1? Now I'll change type from string back to number, and it sorts correctly again. So if the default column type doesn't work for you, you can change it to string, number, date, or Boolean. Next, let's look at how we can create a column to compute values. For a very simple example, let's say record keeping for this data set started in 2002, and I want a column that shows the record year, 2002 being number 1, 2003 being record year number 2, and so on. First, I create a new column called record year. And if I don't specify anything, I get a blank column. So now I'll go back and specify value equals, and I'm going to put in a script here and say year, which will grab the value from the year column minus 2001, which should make 2002 record year 1, and so on. So now you see that column appears and calculates the record year for each record. Lastly, let's look at how file extensions interact with simpler.gov. We've been working with select.xml, which in this case sits in a folder named simpler.gov on my C drive. So in the simpler.gov interface, localhost 180 points to this folder. So if I put select.xml here in the URL, it will open that file in the simpler.gov environment. And the extension essentially acts as a parameter in that it defines what format we see the output in. So with XML, I get the default for the select layer, which is CSV. But I can also use .json, JavaScript object notation, to get the data returned in that format. Or .html, which returns the results in a cleaner HTML format. Or I can also use .csv or .xls, and my browser will open the results in Excel. So the extension acts as another parameter to define exactly what you want out of simpler.gov. That's about it for the basics, although there's a lot more you can do at the select layer, which again is a layer focused on grabbing your data and getting it into the simpler.gov environment. To learn more on your own, try browsing through and experimenting with the IntelliSense menus in XML. Thanks for watching.